Okay, welcome back to the United Pubcast, the podcast of the official Man United Supporters Club here in Sydney for your Brighton preview. And as there is in the live chat, please no 1-1 draw predictions when we get to score predictions time. I think that is our greatest fear, that we are going to have that board draw or 1-1 draw, whatever you want to describe it as. But yeah, please none of that. Let's try and keep it positive where we can, as Larry has his 7-litre bottle of water. But Larry, first of all, happy Valentine's Day. You strike me as the type of person who probably falls victim to marketing hype from the card companies and try and do something special. So talk to me about your Valentine's Day.
I'm here recording a video with you, mate.
I did the dishes this morning, so I tried to get in the good books.
I posted something on my Instagram story. Good deed done for the day.
No, definitely. Well, there are a few guys also in the chat on Valentine's Day, so we'll say good evening. Evening, Rob. Hope you're all well. Obviously predicting the board draw. George as well. Hi, guys. Very optimistic, calling the episode BISSOUMA audition. Like we think we're going to sign the number 6 we've been talking about signing for 4 years. Well, we will get into BISSOUMA and there isn't really any links with him at the moment, but there has been links in the past, and there's obviously a need for a midfielder, a number 6, obviously, but we've had that need for some time, and we have failed to sort of add in that position. But just on the draw, a draw we haven't drawn yet. We haven't played the football match, and we all sit here saying we know what's going to happen. Before the Southampton game, we sat here, we said we know what's going to happen, and eventually it did. Ultimately, we don't know. We don't know. If there is a 1-1 draw, we're going to come back and we knew what was going to happen. But ultimately, we don't know. But there is a strong sense that it is going to be a bit of deja vu. Whatever the result, it's going to be a very similar feeling coming out of it. And I'm just thinking, as a fan, Larry, how do you approach that? Because we want to go into these games of thinking, okay, these 3 points, they can set us up to go through to the next round of an FA Cup or challenge for a title or get into the top 4 or next round of the Champions League. It doesn't have this feel like the top 4 is still there, but it does seem inevitable that if this form continues, we're not going to be in a top 4 race. So whether this be a win, a draw, or a loss, it kind of feels irrelevant. Like it feels like we're getting our hopes up for nothing. So I'm just thinking, as a fan, how do you sort of motivate yourself to approach it?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think with United, I'm holding on to the hope because it's very easy when you're getting caught in the emotion post-match and even during the match, let's face it. But the reality is, removing the emotion from the situation, United are putting good patches of football together. It's not as like it was under Solskjaer where everything just looked poor start to finish. I think we're playing good football for 30 minutes and then it's just falling away. I think you can put it down to a fitness. You can put it down to a change of system. And it's a system that requires a high level of fitness. And the other thing is, I simply don't think we have the personnel to execute the way Ralph Rangnick likes to play. I like Paul Pogba. Technically, I'd say our best player, who in the starting 11 at least. Do you really want someone who's 6'3" running around like a headless chicken for 90 minutes? That's the thing. I'm not sure it's the right system for this group of players. And that's why you have to say, yeah, it's very easy to criticize the players. And I accept they take the brunt of the run of results we're getting at the moment. But I also have to look at Ralph Rangnick and say, while this is your preferred style, you also have to look at the tools you got. And you have to adapt. So you have to hold on to the hope of we are playing good football. We are creating chances. On another day, Ronaldo scores that easy chance. And then we're 2-0 up at halftime, and then it's a different football match. I think it'll take one game. If we can get one game where we absolutely slap someone, I think United can go on a run. The unfortunate thing for us is got a fixture list from hell coming up.
Well, I want to move into Ralph Rangnick in sort of another topic in a little bit, but just on that point you make in regards to players and not suiting the system, and that falls on Ralph Rangnick. He needs to identify the players and the tools at his disposal and find that system. I wouldn't disagree. However, first of all, both you and I have both said this. When Ralph Rangnick came in, it was 4-2-2. We saw a positive in that, and then the performance died off, and then we were saying, hang on, that's not the system. We were all calling for 4-3-3. We were calling for Pogba and Bruno in the 2-8s, and now we're here, we're sitting, this isn't the system. So I'm thinking, what is? Because we wanted this a couple of weeks ago. Now we're saying, it's not the right thing. I
think the system's right. I like the formation. I like the balance. The formation's good. We're creating more chances than we did under the 4-4-2 and the 4-2-2. So something is right there. I think my criticism actually comes with the high pressing style. I just don't think we've had the preseason to execute that game plan. And we simply don't have the body and numbers. We don't have the depth in any position other than defense to say, if someone's injured, we can cover that. So I think Ralph Rangnick's playing a bit of a dangerous game. I understand where he's coming from. And the other argument is, like I said, if Ronaldo finishes that opportunity in the first half, You're up 2-0 at halftime. Maybe we cruise after that. But unfortunately, it's not panning out that way.
Unfortunately, very true. And I want to get into sort of not team selections, but I want to touch on sort of the Harry Maguire and Marcus Rashford sort of elephant in the room. But there are a few guys a little bit not late to the chat, but joined us just a few minutes late. George, always good to see you. Wes, as always, and Mike and Ugly Bear, always good to have you guys here. So appreciate the support. If you are watching live, do please leave a like on the video. That would be great. And look, Larry, we're going to wrap up the podcast in regards to team selection and our starting 11s, which we'll bring up a little bit later. But just on the topic as a whole, in Marcus Rashford and Harry Maguire, and look, maybe we're sitting here and we're picking on those two. I don't think that's the case. I think they are sort of standout. I don't know if culprits are words, but we're just going to use those as a generalization. They need drop in. In my opinion, they both need drop in yesterday. However, the evidence we have suggests Ralph Rangnick's going to continue to pick them. If this situation, after both performances they put in against Southampton on the weekend, if Ralph Rangnick chooses them at home to Brighton now, with a big game against Leeds and Atletico Madrid, where you do have to rotate your squad and get minutes to other players and rest players, if he picks Harry Maguire and Marcus Rashford in this game, look, it's a tough job as Manchester United manager, and look, I don't envy that position. However, I will think less of Ralph Rangnick. I think he needs to, if he wants to audition himself, which we're going to get into BISSOUMA, if he wants his job as a manager, he needs to show he has the balls to make big decisions. And also just from, I don't know, a morals point of view, Harry Maguire and Marcus Rashford shouldn't be starting, especially in a Ralph Rangnick philosophy sort of thing. So just your thoughts going into this game. Is anything going to change in Ralph Rangnick's sort of mentality going into the game?
I want to sit here and say to you, I'll be amazed if Harry Maguire starts, and I would be. But in saying that, it's just you look at his comments in the last game, it's a real concern. The problem is we're in such a bad patch of form in terms of results. Like I said, you're putting glimpses of a good performance together. I think he really needs to pull Harry Maguire out. Let's take the level of performance or even the results out of it for a factor. If you're Victor Lindelof, you've had a fight for your position. You've seen Raphael Varane come in. He's been our best centre-back all season. He's been pulled out due to really unfortunate circumstances. And then he's come back in and he's being told to sit on the bench. I don't think that does anything for morale. We've been told Alanga's been pulled in because of how he's been performing in training. Well, Victor Lindelof's gone a step further and he's been our best player. Well, best outfield player this season for me. So if that's the case, why isn't he starting? So if Ralph Rangnick is fair, then Victor Lindelof should be starting next to Raphael Varane this game. And if he doesn't, like I said, I'm in full agreement with you, mate. I just think he then needs to accept he doesn't have the balls to make the big decisions. And then I would be questioning, really, should he be getting the keys to the castle if he can't even make a simple decision like drop Harry Maguire, who's in awful form?
Where I would say, and here I'm saying I'll think less of Ralph Rangnick if he does select them. However, I have to sit back and look at what I said under even a Jose Mourinho and definitely under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and what we have seen so far under Ralph Rangnick. It might be out of his control, and I'm not suggesting that there's clauses in contracts or anything. Obviously, Ralph Rangnick has dropped players before and will continue to do so, but almost that subconscious thing, maybe it just the manager's hands are tied at Manchester United. It's an unfortunate sort of sign of the sort of times we are in. Ugly here just with a comment. Ronaldo has been worse than Rashford besides who you drop in Rashford. I couldn't agree with. I couldn't disagree with that more. And Ronaldo has been poor, but Ronaldo is our top goal scorer. Where would be without Ronaldo? I have no idea. But there's no doubt in terms of someone has an opinion that Ronaldo hasn't been good enough lately. There's no doubt there's an argument to have Ronaldo out of the team and have a Cavani. However, I just saw it was Edison Cavani's birthday today, so there's a very good chance he's going to ask for the day off tomorrow. So I'm not sure of Cavani's availability, but Ronaldo put his hands up to play, so I'm hoping Ronaldo plays, but I couldn't agree with that. Look, everyone's entitled to opinion, Ugly Bear, but I think Rashford has been, well, for what we get in, who are you dropping Marcus Rashford for? We'll get into the team selection. I have dropped him. I can't remember your starting 11. I'll have to bring your starting 11 up in a little bit. But just on to Brighton, there is an opposition, and obviously the name and picture in the thumbnail, BISSOUMA. As I said at the start of the podcast, he's a name that's been thrown around for a couple of years at all the clubs, Chelsea, City, Liverpool, Arsenal, PSG, Manchester United, and obviously with our need for a defensive midfielder, you can understand the links. However, look, I don't watch Brighton every week. I can't understand the hype. I've obviously watched him play a few times. He obviously does look a very good player, obviously ready for that step up to move away from Brighton and to a bigger club. I don't understand the hype. That's not to say Manchester United shouldn't sign him. I just don't have enough information. However, my question would be, into the live chat as well, get your thoughts in on BISSOUMA and like a potential sign-in for United. My question is, we've done this before, and this is not to say we shouldn't do it. However, I just look at BISSOUMA. We've done this with players, let's say, try to think of a name off the top of my head. Let's say Morgan Schneiderlin for Southampton, Brighton, sort of similar thing. Morgan Schneiderlin boss games for years at Old Trafford. There was 2 or 3 games he was man of the match at Old Trafford again. I remember the Moyes and I think the David Moyes season. I think we had them in the FA Cup as well. I remember he boss games at Old Trafford. Everyone's saying he's the number one. He's the best defensive midfielder in the league. Go and get him. We went and got him for big money. Ultimately, he wasn't cut out for Manchester United. Now, I'm not saying BISSOUMA isn't cut out for Manchester United, and we can't just not sign players because other players have failed. Of course, you need to progress and move on and try and find that right gem. I'm just not sold. It's weird. He'd come in, he might be fantastic. I just don't understand the hype. But where do you stand on the BISSOUMA situation? And is it just a case of we need someone, get someone, or are you really sort of want to dissect and get the absolute perfect signing?
We do have to get the perfect signing. I don't think we should be settling, and I think that was the whole argument with Zachariah. He obviously went to Juventus. With United now, we don't have... I think we've got the caliber of player to be a good squad player. I think if you look at Fred and you look at Scott McTominay, if they're your squad players, you're in a good position. What United need now are the cherry on tops. So I think what you have to look at what BISSOUMA does, and if you look at him statistically, and I know you're not one for stats, but the stats do tell you this guy is a serious footballer. He's a good defensive midfielder. He intercepts well, he tackles well, and his positional play is perfect. And he's better than what we have. That's the reality of it. So now, again, you can go into the argument. Do you go for what's better than what we have, or do you go for someone who's clearly and obviously on top? If I look at, say, a Declan Rice. Now, I like Declan Rice. I think he's talented. For £100 million, is he that much better than Scott McTominay? I think he's better than McTominay. He's absolutely better. But is he miles better? I'm not too sure about that. So that's where I'm sitting. I don't even know who that player in world football is, Tom. There's a few.
With the Declan Rice situation, and this is a whole other topic and a topic for another day. However, is there a case of £100 million that sounds absurd and ludicrous? Will it in 2 or 3 years' time? If other players are going for 40 and 50 million pounds now and sitting on people's bench, like, is it worth? If Declan Rice is that player, £100 million now is stupid money. In a couple of years, it won't be.
Not for me. I think United can spend 100 million and get 2 quality midfielders. If you think of the Premier League, if you got Ruben Neves, who's reportedly available for 40 million euros. Yeah. So if you got him and you got Yuri Tillmans, who's going to have 1 year left on his contract, for those 2 players, you can spend around 100 or if not less. So I think you got a level of performance and you improve United's squad depth. You improve the starting 11 by getting those 2 players instead of getting one Declan Rice. So I would look at it that way. Look, 100 million on any player is absolutely absurd unless they are world-class now. And I think while Declan Rice's trajectory is going upward, he's not the finished article yet. And I simply don't think you can take a gamble on someone paying £100 million. For £100 million, I want Michael Carrick. I want what Michael Carrick was when he came into Manchester United. I'm not convinced Declan Rice is ever going to be that level player.
That's my opinion at the moment. But again, something very well could change on that. And if he holds up a Man United shirt, I think he'll be the next Roy Keane. But just a point here I want to bring up, and we at the pub on the weekend had a lengthy discussion over dinner, all the Pubcast listeners there, over the Mason Greenwood situation. So I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But George brings up an interesting point here. Although BISSOUMA was found not guilty, would the club even consider signing BISSOUMA from a PR point of view after the Greenwood debacle? Because remember that incident with BISSOUMA last year? I'm just thinking, just from a PR, or whether he's innocent, not guilty, whatever, just to look like, is that something the club will consider?
I think so. At the end of the day, he was found not guilty. So...
Actually, to be fair, I haven't seen the ins and outs of the actual findings and everything. So if
I'll tell you what, Tom, you probably know this. The season United won the treble, Roy Keane went to prison. Do you know what he went in prison for?
Yeah, assault. The week before the week, it was a week of the treble. Maybe I think it might have been in between just after the Tottenham game before the Newcastle game. Assaulting a woman.
Exactly. He reportedly slapped a woman in the face. So if Roy Keane can do that, and we all go on here saying we'd love Roy Keane in this team, I think we can forgive BISSOUMA, who was found not guilty.
Yeah, no, definitely. Hopefully no more court cases and sort of court issues at Manchester United. Hopefully we can move on to the football. Just one more here. Actually, speaking of football, and this is purely football, this is no transfer fee, no monies, no signings. Ugly Bear brings up the point here. We have James Garner, who will be levels ahead of Declan Rice. We've had this discussion. We sort of touched on it in the last one, I think, with Rob, last Friday night pint. Just your current thoughts on the James Garner situation, because we both sit here, we're both big fans of him, but we both have concerns that, okay, if you're playing well, you can bring not that he's a youth player, but would class him as a youth player.
He is. He's 20. He's not.
But you can bring that youth player in like an Alanga on the right wing and sort of blood him in sort of in a winning team type thing and hope they sort of progress. To pin your hopes on James Garner in the number 6 role for Manchester United, that's a big call on a young player, and I just don't think any manager in this cutthroat business will take that risk. Not I'm saying it's not the risk. Yeah.
Well, it's a big ask. I think if you're deploying him as part of the squad, I think 100%, because he's proven it 2 seasons in a row in the Championship. And like we said, Tom, it's not a matter of he's fitting in the Championship. He's dominating. He's shining in the Championship.
Well, he's dominating Premier League teams from the Championship.
Exactly. And we've seen back-to-back performances in the FA Cup against Arsenal and Leicester that tell you, okay, this guy can actually play. So with that being said, he needs to be given an opportunity. I think he's a squad player, but I think if he performs well, he's got every opportunity to become a starting 11 player. But I still think for the level of Manchester United, the cream always rises to the top. If you're good enough, you will make it. Paul Pogba is the only exception where I can think of that not being the case. But even then, that was a case of the agent being greedy. He was always in Sir Alex's plan. So if he's good enough, he will make it. Rest assured. You can't be banking on him to be our starting 6. Number 6 is the most difficult position. I dare say that and being a centre back, those are positions you mature into. You don't see the best of those players until they're 25, 26 years of age. So he'll need time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I want to get in the starting 11s. And Mike brings a point here, which I just want to sort of bring it back to the BISSOUMA thing and why I don't want to sort of go down that rabbit hole in regards to the actual findings. OJ was found not guilty doesn't mean he was innocent. So I don't actually know what happened with BISSOUMA in regards to that's pending or innocent or not guilty. That's another debate. But I'm sure we'll be having that when the BISSOUMA links happen after he inevitably puts Brighton 1-0 up after 7 minutes on Wednesday morning, Sydney time. But we will go starting 11 time, Larry. And on the last podcast, we had a chat yesterday, and I just threw one line out there just saying, maybe it's time for Fred to come back in. And you laughed at me and you thought, oh, God, give me a break. I'm just going to bring up your team selection. You've got a Brazilian in our midfield.
Yep.
Talk to me.
I'm doing what I like Bruno Fernandes, and I don't want Fred to play, but if I'm being honest, I think this is how you get the right tune out of the team. I look at it at the moment. We are creating chances, but I think the balance is off. I think if you get Fred in there, get him away from the 6, get him to just do the hard work, the donkey yards, he will press for 90 minutes. Fred will do that. So if you can get Fred working hard, you got Matic who can control the ball and positionally is better than McTominay, but he'll probably need a 3-week rest after this game. But if you can deploy this 3, I think Pogba, give him a license to roam, give him a license to create. I reckon he'll wreak havoc. And you just have to look at what Pogba did in that first half, Tommy. When he's on song and he's playing for another contract, so whatever reason for him being motivated, I think that's the way to go. I like Bruno, but he can be so frustrating when he's not on song. I think with Paul Pogba, he gets the balance right between he can beat a man, he's a technically better footballer than Bruno, he'll keep the ball better than Bruno. And I think against a low block, which is what I expect Brighton to present against us, although they do play football, I think Pogba's maybe a safer bet than a Bruno Fernandes.
Is this coming, and we're not like scoring points on who's right or who's wrong, because I've had the same opinion, but would this be a case of maybe leaning to where you're potentially, or we, large portions of the fan base are wrong in thinking Pogba and Bruno can work? Because here you are saying maybe we can only have one of them. We've had them in there once or twice, and even with good performances, we're thinking, maybe something's off. So Rob's saying no way he drops Bruno. But just in regards to that Pogba and Bruno playing together, you're picking Fred. Like it's just is this case that it's not going to work.
If you had the perfect 6, it would absolutely work. But we don't have that option. So I'm going with what gives us the best balance. If you had an N'Golo Kante in the 6, for example, he'll do all your legwork. You can play with Bruno and Pogba, no problem. But I think we do not have that player. And while McTominay's been deployed there positionally, he hasn't learned how to play in the 6. That would take a long time to learn that discipline. So I think with Matic there, he'll shield the back 4. He'll keep the ball well. And I think Fred, you don't want to give him the ball too much. I think you just got him in there purely for work rate. It's all about getting the ball to Pogba here, who can link up with the forward 3. If you can do that, I think United can go a long way to winning. With look, I've dropped Rashford. I think that's self-explanatory. He's really poor. I'm sorry, he's really poor. And look, Harry Maguire. Enough said. I think it's a good team. I've dropped Luke Shaw as well because Luke Shaw doesn't know how to defend. And I think this is the team that can get the chocolates against Brighton.
Well, yeah, our back four is going to be the exact same, and will be very interesting. I think our money would be on Harry Maguire starting. But George here with a shout. Obviously, your shout of Fred playing, but George here with the shout, drop Alanga and play Matter. Need to play a bit more direct. Plus, I know Matter will give the early ball and try not to delay passes in on goal. So, George, I want to make you very happy and bring up my team. We'll have lined up one Matter on the right-hand side. I'm going to do this every week now. As I said yesterday, that I've just got to the point where I just need to see this guy be playing football. He's only here for a couple more months, and I do think he makes the team better. In my opinion, yes, he does make the team better. We play better football with one Matter. Now, I do understand other players have maybe superior attributes at the moment, even when a Rashford is on song. Yes, you do want that sort of thread in behind, but I do like Jadon Sancho on the left. We don't have Greenwood, don't have Martial. I don't want to see Jesse Lingard playing football for Man United at the moment. He's really pissing me off, unfortunately, and I do like Lingard, but I don't like that situation at all. And I just think George makes the point in regards to, he says he doesn't want those delayed passes offside, or that causes people to go offside. And I saw a stat today, Larry, that I don't know how accurate, but let's say it's true, that Manchester United have been caught offside more than any opposition in the Premier League this season. I'm just thinking there's two issues in an offside decision where you can look at and who's to blame. One, the players in terms of their movement and bad timing of their runs. You just had to look at Alanga's run during the week, on the weekend, where he ran 20 metres offside, and how we attack set pieces from sort of those deep free kicks. We always seem to be in an offside position. So there's that part of it. But also, and very often it's a case of the ball carrier taking too many touches and sort of delaying that pass and not moving the ball quick enough. Now, the player who moves the ball quicker than anyone in our team is one Matter. Whether that be a control pass or a first-time pass, he does move the ball very quick. And the amount of times we do get caught offside, maybe that is just a position, whether it's through Ralph Rangnick or through the players we have, we do find ourselves in positions where we are able to thread those balls through. We just happen to always find ourselves offside, or it's a Ronaldo who might not be quick enough or out of position. So we are in those positions where we can thread the ball through there. And I just think one Matter moves the ball quicker than anyone. He'll find a red shirt, where a lot of the players we do have in that position in previous weeks do find an opposition shirt. And I think if you do find a red shirt, you do less defending. So many times we give the ball away, and suddenly our back four, who have been vulnerable in the sort of Tellez, he has got his defensive deficiencies. Luke Shaw does. Delo on the right-hand side especially, and you just look at the issues our centre-backs or Harry Maguire has had. Let them do less defending by keeping the ball, and that is why I've gone one Matter. But we've both gone to man to manage probably for a similar reason as well, in regards to what Scott McTominay hasn't been able to do in previous weeks. We've gone to man to manage. So this is a team I look at, maybe take Bruno out of it, maybe put one Matter in the 10 type role, where I would be looking at Ralph Rangnick and saying, if you want control, Ralph, this is the team you should be picking.
Compelling argument. You'd make a hell of a lawyer, but I don't see it. I like one Matter. I would, if you're gonna use him, I'd play him in one of the 8s, but I don't like him on that wide right spot.
Well, if you've dropped Bruno, well, would you play Matter over Fred there and have an Alanga on the right?
If United keep the ball, look, it would be a ballsy call if you're Ralph Rangnick, but if you want to keep the ball and you're playing a system to say, we're keeping 70% possession, so I don't need anyone to run, like you said, absolutely play one Matter. You could even get Matter sitting even a little bit deeper, closer to Matic, just dictating play a little bit, linking up where necessary, and letting Pogba have that free license. Look, you know my thoughts on one Matter. I love him. I think he's absolutely brilliant. But when we're looking at these teams, I'm thinking, what's Ralph going to do? I can't see it.
Yeah, look, it's very much hope from me. I know he's not going to start one Matter. And look, there is a very strong case for that to be the correct decision to not start him. In my opinion, I've just got to the stage where the season, unfortunately, does feel like it's almost over. I just want to see him playing football because we've been burnt so many times. And like a different manager, this is Ralph, it's not Solskjaer, but we've seen over the past 2 years the effect the lack of rotation has it towards the end of the season. And here we are in our busiest schedule, not rotated and playing the same players, and we're wondering why they're sort of just continuing the same performances, because they're sort of running out of batteries. We have this quality on the bench who we're just not utilising. For so often, we've been selling the wrong players and buying the wrong players, and we're not utilising the best tools we do have. But Ugly here with a question, do you think players performing poor because they know there will be a mass overhaul of players in the summer, including Ronaldo, Cavani, Maguire? I think that's a whole part of why there is sort of, not just this year, but in the past decade, that stems from the management of the club, the positions we find ourselves in the players' contracts. That is why players' performances sort of dip off. If Paul Pogba wasn't out of contract or Jesse Lingard wasn't out of contract, their performances would be different. Now, that's not to say they'll be better or worse. They would just be different. We would like to think that if everyone was 100% committed to the club and all pulling in the same direction, those performances would be better. But it does stem down from the ownership then the board level. It does impact what happens on the pitch, because these are quality footballers who you will see at other clubs perform. You can see Paul Pogba going to Real Madrid and win the Champions League. You can see that happening. And I'm just thinking he's completely right. There's no doubt players talk to each other in the dressing room. What are you doing next year? Are you thinking of going to Spain? Yeah, I might move to Spain as well. Like those things happen. And you can't imagine a team in the 07-08 team or the 98-99 team, that midfielder, Keane, Scholes, Beckham, Giggs, you feeling like Inter Milan next year? You feel like going to Barcelona next year? No, it was about Manchester United and performing. But there are so many other issues this team has to face with, or these players do face with.
Yeah, got George making a good comment here. Have we spoken about Van de Beek yet? What a performance. Look, it's one game. I think we need to remember that. And we also have to remember it was against Leeds. Leeds play a really open pressing style of football. That suits Van de Beek. I want to see him back it up. Now, I'm not saying, credit where it's due, man of the match, and rightfully so. But it was one game and it was against Leeds. I think let's cool down a little bit. But in saying that, you look at him perform in a two-man midfield. You're looking at that three that we're putting out there. Geez, you'd like to use him if you could.
I think it's just one of those ones where we'll monitor his time at Everton. We'll see what transfer business we do in the summer. It's one of those ones where we're just going to, if Ten Hag's the manager, he will be almost that sort of quote unquote like a new signing. Well, we'll see. We'll honestly see him as a new signing, and you could almost make a case that it's a genuine one because not the way he's been treated, but the way his situation has unfolded. If it's a Pochettino or a new manager, it could very well be a flip of the coin.
If it's Ten Hag, he's a shoo-in, I think.
That's what I mean. Yeah, 100%. But yeah, thanks everyone for
I'll tell you what, Tom. Brighton are undefeated in their last 6 games in the Premier League. So how's this one going? Another draw? Dare we say it?
Unfortunately, look, every week, even against Atletico Madrid next week or away at Manchester City, whenever we play them, I want to predict a win. Eventually, we're going to win. Eventually, it's going to click. Those chances are going to go in. Instead of being 1-0 up at halftime, we're going to be 2 or 3-0 up at halftime. That will happen at some stage. Am I confident it's going to happen this week? No, I'm not. But ultimately, I'll predict it. Let's go 3-1 United. Definitely not confident. Money would be on a draw. But let's go 3-1 United because eventually it will click. And because we have been, it sounds weird, we have been playing quite well at times.
Yeah. I'm going to say a draw. I can't.
Look, it's a smart money. Well, just before we move on, we're talking about top 4, and I don't want to talk about the top 4 race, but Wolves were actually in the race, to be fair to them. But here we are. Top 4 was over when we lost to Southampton, and then Tottenham go and lose to Wolves. I'm just thinking that Tottenham are in this weird situation where they look nailed on, but the betting man's favourite.
How bounce is it for Tottenham?
Weird situation because we'll look at, okay, Arsenal's going to throw it away, West Ham's going to throw it away. We know we're going to throw it away. Tottenham, Conte, Harry Kane, they should be able to maybe just get over the line, no distractions with other competitions, and ultimately they've thrown it away as well. Very Spursy, I'd say. I
think we just need to make the point here. Most people would agree Conte's done more in the game than Ralph Rangnick. Agree?
As manager, 100%.
Point is, you look at it, if you don't have the players you want, there's only so much you can do as a manager. And yeah, this isn't to say Conte's garbage. I personally I just don't think he's a fit for United. But he's a good manager. He's won everywhere he goes. But you just have to look at it and say, he doesn't have the personalities he wants in the dressing room to be the serial winner that he wants to be. So you just have to look at maybe we're being a bit hard on Ralph and saying, in saying that, I think United got, on paper, seriously, that is a good team. It's a good team. Yes, we got limitations in midfield, but we should not be in a battle with Spurs. We really shouldn't.
Shouldn't, but we are, unfortunately. But actually, just as we wrap up, obviously, huge game against Brighton, obviously a Wednesday morning here in Sydney. So that'll be a Tuesday night over in the UK. Obviously, we'll be tuned into that, Larry. But the Champions League does return, and there's a little game in the hands of Real Madrid versus PSG. Champions League is back. That has crept up. So obviously next week United will be against Atletico Madrid. But what are you thinking ahead of the Champions League in regards to the other fixtures? We'll obviously talk about United next week, but that's a big game for so many reasons. Messi, Mbappe, Real Madrid, PSG, big favourites going to be knocked out. It's just Pochettino potentially out of a tournament, and does he get the sack? And then so many. It does affect Man United this game, in my opinion, kind of, if you know what I mean.
If you're Manchester United and you watch PSG get knocked out to Real Madrid, how on earth do you give Poch the job?
Look, Real Madrid. I know they're not what they are, but
look at PSG's team, mate.
Yeah,
they have a
but
better team.
But I've
than
seen PSG.
Real Madrid.
I watched PSG against Manchester City, and once they did beat them, but the second time they played them, they played with 7 players. Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe stood on halfway, hands on hips, and just watched Man City pass the ball. They did nothing. I can't see how PSG win the Champions League with those players. But obviously on paper, of course, quality-wise, but they just don't work.
I think, well, we're sitting here saying if United keep the ball, they can't concede. Well, if PSG kept the ball, and with the caliber of players, there's no reason why they shouldn't, then they could have done something. But at the end of the day, you have to. So we sit here and we say it's hard for Pochettino to get a tune out of Messi, Mbappe, and Neymar. Well, I just saw Sir Alex Ferguson get a tune out of Rooney, Tevez, Ronaldo, Berbatov. The list goes on. Andy Cole, Dwight York, Nani. You can get a tune out of players if they have your respect. And the reality is the players there have a bigger say than the manager. If he can't get a tune out of them, then that says all you need to know. If he can't get a tune out of Messi and Mbappe and Neymar, why should he get a tune out of Ronaldo and Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford and so forth?
Yeah. Well, George, he's saying Real Madrid progressed $2.50. And look, I remember that Champions League draw a few months ago when we didn't come out of the hat. Atletico came out. It was a whole mess. I think Man United will beat PSG again. I think maybe it's still lined up in the stars. So maybe both progress and play each other in the next round, or God forbid, maybe in the final. I think that is what the footballing world does sort of want, deserve, and maybe need. They need Ronaldo versus Messi in a Champions League final. Man United beat PSG. Winner takes Poch, maybe, for some people. Some people might not want the winner of that. But, yeah, definitely, look, I can see he's playing PSG at some stage this season.
Before we wrap up, what do you make of the thoughts Richard Arnold backing Ralph Rangnick and going hard for Ten Hag as opposed to Poch? I hope it's true, because you got to say respect. That's a good move by the CEO.
Look, I like it. He's learned from Ed Woodward. I'm sure he has very good PR people around him to get this story out. It's a very good story. If he backs up on it, fantastic. Am I holding money on it that he is going to back up on it? Not really at the moment, and it's an unfair judgment to place on him. But at the moment, in my opinion, until he proves otherwise, and look, he does need a clean slate, of course, but unfortunately, I've been burnt too many times. He's Woodward 2.0 for me until he proves otherwise.
On this comment by George, Tuchel constantly finished first. Tuchel won the league. He won their version of the FA Cup. Tuchel's done a lot more. Pochettino came second in a one-horse race. Let's never forget that.
The Tuchel and Pochettino, in terms of tying them together in a situation, is very interesting in regards to the situations, what they've both spoken about in regards to dealing with those players. And look, I'm sure we'll have plenty of these debates in regards to manager situations and who's Ralph Rangnick is going to pick or who Richard Arnold's going to pick in the coming weeks. So definitely debates for another day. So if you are obviously in the live chat and you aren't subscribed and you want to sort of stay on top of those debates with us, please do hit the subscribe button. That would be great. Do appreciate everyone's interaction in the comments today. Truly appreciate it. It's really good interacting with everyone, not just Larry and I talking to ourselves. So we do appreciate all that. Make sure you do leave a like on the video before you do leave. Anything else to add, Larry, before we wrap up?
Bring on the draw. Come on.
1-1 draw. Fingers crossed for a positive result, and we'll be back on Wednesday night, Sydney time, discussing it. So until then, have a good couple of days, guys, and cheers.
Cheers.